Welcome dear students to a new online class. The second semester FYUGP students are welcome here. The English core paper 2, that is what will be dealt with in this class. The title of the paper, of course, we know is Forms, Genres and Concepts of English Literature. We already have had 2 classes in the online mode. In one of the classes I tried to discuss or elaborate what the paper is about. In the second class, we discussed one of the genres, the dramatic monologue. Now, today's class is about a different genre, that is the novel. The novel as narrative, that is the syllabus topic. Now, I have titled this class as the novel and introduction. Now, this is an introductory class only. Now, we will have further classes on the novel. It will be required to have 2 or 3 more classes actually. One dealing with the rise of the novel, that is the factors responsible for the growth of the novel in the 18th century. Another dealing with the history of the novel, original history of the novel. Then characteristics of the novel. So we'll need a few classes to deal with all the aspects of the novel. To start with, we are having an introduction. That is, we'll get into the definition of the novel, the etymology of the novel, and general idea of the novel. About the novel, we'll try to have in this class. So to start with, now we are talking about genres here. The novel is a literary genre. Now it is, if you go to any dictionary or glossary, a definition that you will get, that you are sure to get, is that a novel is an extended narrative in prose. An extended narrative. So the first thing to note about the novel is that it is a narrative. It is a narrative genre. That is, it is a telling. Unlike an enactment, it's not dramatic. It's not an enactment. It's a telling. So a tale is told. That is what a novel is. There will be the question of who tells the tale, the first person narrative, second person narrative, or third person narrative, the point of view. Those issues will be there. But broadly speaking, the first things first, novel is a narrative. And it's an extended narrative. Extended means it is of a certain length. Relatively, it is longer than the short story. In fact, there is a middle version as well, a telling of a middle length called the novella. We'll come to that. So the novel is an extended narrative. Then it's a narrative in prose. It's a tale in prose. That's important. There have been narratives earlier. There have been narratives like the epic, the ballad, the romances, but those were in verse. So the novel is a narrative in prose. That is what distinguishes the novel from other narratives. Then Arnold Kettle, for example, defines the novel as a realistic prose fiction complete in itself and of a certain length. So it is fiction. Novel is fiction. It is not an account of things that have actually happened. It's not news, for example. It's fiction. It's invented. Now, poetry is also invented, but poetry we take as a different genre altogether. So when we talk about fiction, we mean prose fiction, and under prose fiction comes the novel and the short story. So in that sense, the novel is part of fiction. Then it is realistic. The novel may not be an account of what has actually happened, but it represents life. It is not incredible, it is not fantastic, it is not supernatural. It is representative of real life. So it tells, you can say, probable lies. So novel tells us of things which has happened and which can happen at any time. So in that sense, it is realistic. So these are the important characteristics, you can say, or features of the novel. It is a narrative, an extended narrative at that. It is in prose, it is fictional, and it is realistic. So that is why Arnold Kettle defines it as a realistic prose fiction complete in itself and of a certain length. So it's an extended narrative. We said it's of a certain length. And then it has certain complication, a complicated plot. It will have a relatively complicated plot, number of characters. So that kind of a narrative is a novel. Now, as we said, there were such narratives earlier, but most of them were, or all of them in fact, were verse tales, not prose tales. Secondly, the novel is a narrative; it's not an enactment, so it differentiates from the drama. So it's different from the verse tales. It's different from drama. Then in length, it's different from either the short story or the novella. Then again, the English novel develops in the 18th century due to certain factors which we shall discuss in a subsequent class. This term now, the etymology of the word novel. The English word novel actually comes from the Italian word novella, which meant the little new thing. In the 14th century Italy, they developed this kind of a prose tale, collection of prose tales, which are called novellas. That is the little new thing. So that is the etymology of the word novel. And in fact, novel has this sense of being a novelty. It's new. It developed only in the 18th century. Other narratives developed much earlier, be it the epic or the romance or the ballad. Novel comes up only in the 18th century England. So it's a new thing. So hence also it is the novel. Interestingly, in other European languages, what the English call the novel, they call it the roman. Now this comes from the word romance. The romance is also a telling, it's also a narrative, but it's a narrative. In the medieval times it was in verse, later in prose as well, but the romance is an incredible tale. It's a tale of adventure, supernatural adventures. So it's interesting that the European name comes from romance, which is an incredible tale, while the novel is a realistic tale. That means, though incredible, the romance does have a role to play in the development of the novel. In the development of the narrative genre, the romance has to be mentioned. So the romance is one of the landmarks, you can say, in the development of the novel. We'll discuss that in a class where we shall deal with the origin and the development of the novel. Then different types of novels also we'll have to discuss later on. Now today's class was an introductory class, and I hope we have taken up, or we have grasped quite a few important aspects of the novel. So let's recap once. The novel and introduction. So novel is an extended narrative in prose. It's a narrative, so it's a telling. It's in prose, unlike the verse narratives of earlier times. It's fiction, but it's invented, but it is realistic. It represents real life. It's in prose, we already said. It has a complicated plot, number of characters. It's a long one. Now this novella, today of course novella means a tale of a middle length, longer than the short story but shorter than the novel. Then the etymology of the novel, we said it comes from novella, which was the 14th century Italian word for prose tales, like Boccaccio's Decameron, and it meant the little new thing. So that sense of novelty is there. It's a novel is relatively new. Then also we need to know that the romance also played a part in the development of the novel, though the romance is an incredible narrative, but the European word for the novel is Roman. So it's incredible. Novel is realistic. Novel is a narrative, not an enactment, so not drama. It's in prose, so unlike the epic or the ballad or the romance. So that's how it is. It was an introductory class. In the subsequent classes, as I said, we'll deal with a few other aspects of the novel. I hope to meet you once again shortly to deal with other aspects of this particular genre. So thank you once again.